Hey guys, welcome. I'm your host, Euan Blackman, with the Euan, Me and the ISD Podcast. And we're here with Cristina Neria to discuss the upcoming board election for District 5. And we've set up some questions ahead of time, much like we did in our other videos. And we'll be asking for some probing solutions for what's happening in our district and how we can better connect, by the way, you and me and the ISD podcast, to connect the community with the ISD to affect better outcomes for our students. And so with that, Cristina, if you'd like to, Ms. Neria, if you'd like to introduce us a little bit to yourself, give us a little bit of your background and what brought you to this place today.
Well, I've been in the district since
Dawn of time. Sorry.
Since I went to Skyview, I went to Forest Meadow, I went to Lake Highlands.
Right.
Moved in this area when I was in like 6th grade. I lived in the Stoltz Road area, so I was lucky enough to stay at Skyview my 6th grade year and then move on from there. Class of 98. My oldest child that just turned 26 last year, she went to Lake Highlands from 10th through 12th, and she graduated in 2017.
Oh, wow, super.
So
RISD all the way.
yes.
What is that saying? Proud to be RISD.
Yes, I'm very proud.
Super. And thank you for running, by the way.
Yeah.
As you said, she's running for District 5. So please, the elections are upcoming. May 3rd is election day. Early voting, though, starts April 22nd. So let's start off with the big topic of the day. In some of the schools in our district, most schools are having some violence issues. So student discipline has become that number one concern. For teachers and parents, what powers or responsibilities can you have as a trustee, as a board of trustees member, to help find solutions for this difficult and somewhat concerning and distressing issue for our parents?
Well, I believe, I guess, in my district, there need to be more, I guess, transparency between parent, teacher, more, I guess you could say, more, I guess, getting together, more going back to the basics, like, back to PTA meetings.
Oh, actually talking to people. Yeah,
talking to them,
Great.
So seeing what their concerns are with their children and what they have with their education, the kids' education, and their, the whole kit and caboodle.
Kit and caboodle, for sure. I think in some ways, right, in education, we sort of lost our way a little bit when it comes to discipline. Tolerance is a great thing, except when it's at the expense of others.
Right.
And so you see some of that as a teacher in the classrooms experiencing, and there's some mental health concerns for sure. Not all the behavior is just nefarious, but it is concerning, and we need to find, and some of the works right now with the district, as we talked about before, is chapter 37, with the discipline policies, procedures. What can you do when a student acts up in a classroom?
Right.
How can you fix it so that all the other 28 students in the classroom are not affected by the one?
Well, I think there should be like phases.
Okay.
You got to communicate to the child, tell them what they're doing wrong, get the parent involved, have a sit-down, a teamwork meeting, a teamwork between, again, the parent and the student and the teacher, all three of them. They need to talk about what's going on with the child, disciplinary, like you said,
Right.
or, taking the child back home online, like you said, or put him in the alternative school. Like,
Right. And that's,
yeah,
let me
one or the
segue
other. So it depends on the level of what they're doing wrong.
Sure.
Right.
So the online portion that we had alluded to earlier, so a little off camera, we had a conversation with some of the coalition that Superintendent Branham has joined with a coalition of schools, about 30 ISDs, to address the concerns, the Chapter 37 concerns. And in fact, teamed up with the Wiley ISD superintendent as well to go down to Austin and to advocate for these problems. And one of the solutions that came up with, let's just get a quick read on your idea of the online section, where if a student is misbehaving within a classroom, I'm not talking about talking out of turn, I'm not sitting down when they're told immediately, that type of thing, but I'm talking serious maladaptive behaviors where a student is continually disrupting the learning, continually acting out, continue not participating in the pedagogical approaches that we're using in the classroom. Use fancy words, sorry folks, the how we're interacting with all those kids and how to get that happening is maybe say, hey, Charlie, sorry, out you go.
But in the same token, that child, Charlie, could be, his grades could be falling.
Sure.
And they would have to go to the alternative school to get the special learning and the discipline at the same time, versus John going behind the screen and knows his stuff, just again interrupting the class.
Yes.
The making sure the discipline falls in the correct category.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm trying to say.
One size doesn't fit all, for sure. And that's a great point, actually, the menu of options.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's these behaviors, there you go.
Right.
These behaviors, there you go.
Right, exactly.
No, excellent point. I like that. So then let's segue that into worrying about happenings going in our community. One of the key roles, in fact, one of the 3 key points to being a board member is to hire the superintendent and to hold them accountable, including through the annual evaluation. So what metrics would you use as a board member, including the evaluation, to ensure that all of our students are learning, or as the North Star goal puts it, meeting or exceeding their academic growth goals?
Well, I would look at the standardized testing, or the
STAR.
Yeah.
I wish it was a STAR.
I personally, it just, my opinion, do away with it.
Do away with the STAR test?
Mm-hmm. I don't think you should.
That's a bold move.
I know,
right there,
I know, but what is? I mean, I understand the purpose of it, but going back, I don't want to.
So
I don't want to step on nobody's toes.
No.
But,
please step on all toes you need. But the question is,
I'm going back to my children. So that oldest child did go to
do you mean STAR for the kids or STARs for the evaluation of the superintendent? The STAR scores for the evaluation.
Sorry.
Just to delineate.
I meant the standardized testing.
All together.
The STAR testing for the students that need to pass it in order to go to the next grade.
Right.
I'm talking about that. Because
interesting idea.
Going back to my 3 other children.
A lot of people cheer you on for that, by the way. A lot of people cheer you on for that, for sure.
Thank you. That made my day. My 4 children, when they were younger, they did go to private school. So all 4 of them went to private school, and they didn't have to go through that standardized testing. Yes, they did go through I think it was like an Iowa test, just to see where they were at. Yeah. But it didn't determine if they're going to go to the next grade level or not.
For the folks back home, Iowa, COGAT, those kind of things are just academically gauging where your students are in their learning process.
An evaluation or something,
yes.
Or something to talk to the parent about or whatever. So yes, it didn't prevent them to go to the next level. It just, as long as they were able to have the math and English and the grade level, they were able to move on. So that's
okay. Super. So let me try and wrap that a little more into the point with the superintendent part, because that is a worthy and a very laudable goal for sure. There are many people in the state of Texas who believe the STAR test is not an instrument for measuring anything good when it comes to students. Fair enough. That's another podcast, by the way, that we could do an entire series for ever in a year. So fair enough. You stepped into something very interesting for sure. So let's put aside the STAR testing for superintendent evaluation. What else? What other metrics would you use then to gauge, like, how are, not to quote a famous president, but is our kids learning on that spectrum? Like exceeding their growth goals, meeting their academic goals, learning something. How do we tell if folks like me that teach in the classroom have done their job of imparting knowledge and skills to the students that can then help them become well-adapted adults into?
So how we can make how can we see if the
superintendent is managing that well? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess look at her views, discuss it as with the other board members, agree and disagree, see where she's coming from, really.
Right.
So.
And what would you do to then measure? Are her views playing out well in the classroom? Are her policies affecting good outcomes for our students? How do we be able to tell those good outcomes? Would we go back to COGAT? Would we look at the Iowa test? Would we come up with our own internal instruments? And then how would we hold the superintendent accountable for making that work?
Right. Exactly what you said. We go back to the test, those standardized tests for that, but not to be a determination for the child or the student to go to the next grade level.
Okay.
Because that's how it is here.
To some degree, for
but
sure.
Yes, it would be a testing mechanism.
They have ameliorated that law.
Our superintendent to do. Yes.
Yeah, and they have ameliorated that. Just for clarity for the folks at home, it's not a requirement like it used to be. So it is a suggested a part of graduating to the next grade level. And if the student is not successful, then they can retest the STAR and they go through remediation points, 1446, I think it was, the accelerated learning. So there's other options they have in there. It becomes a large industry with lots and lots of money. I think I have to use my wife as a great quip. We talk about there's lots of money to be made in education, just not for teachers. Sorry. Okay. So now talk about money, right? We could segue into the next part, which is finances, right? Finance. Who doesn't love to talk about finances, right? Let's talk about your budget. No, money makes the world turn. Finances are tough though in these inflationary times, and you all experience that at home. 21%, 25% inflation now over the last 4 years or so. Those are massive pressures. RISD, fortunately, is in a better position than many districts, and that's thanks to our CFO, David Pate, and his team. They do miracles with the numbers, for sure. How would you then help to prioritize the expenditures on both the M&O side and the INS side to help with the budgeting issues we have?
Well, I would, I guess you could say, go to student learning on the MO, the teacher support, academic program, school safety, of course, the IS, which pay off, off the bonds for the major infrastructure projects. Prioritize for the schools most of the needs of the facility improvement. My goal would be ensuring every dollar is spent improves students' outcome in a learning environment. So,
yeah, it's a great point. Let's segue on that a little bit too, to talk about those facilities, the condition of our facilities in RISD. You talked about coming through our system back in the 90s. I hate to say it, that's 35 years ago. 35 years ago. That's a while ago. Most air conditioners last 10 years, 15 years if you treat them well. So things have progressed, and as much as this face looks beautiful and young and full of youth, don't laugh. That wasn't a funny part. Just kidding. So as much as this, things age for sure to get to that point. How can we better manage that M&O, INS side of it with regards to this deferred maintenance we go through? It seems like every bond that we have that comes up, it was talk about deferred maintenance people. Our schools are falling apart, fix it. And then I'm like, okay, so we're going to build indoor football fields.
Well, we need to know what's our priorities and what our priorities are and what we're going to be, I guess you could say, I don't want to say it this way, but wasting our money on. I mean, yeah, we need to make sure our kids are in a safe environment in these buildings, good air conditioning when it's 100 degrees outside, make sure, or when it's freezing out there, make sure our children are warm, coming to school. So, just stuff like that.
Yeah, we had that condition a couple of months ago where they had the whole city had the water out on one side of our district, and I know that's a city problem, but those type of things where they do actually impact the school at some point. And I do agree that the facilities conditions need to be looked at and juggled. And wasting money, look, indoor football fields are fabulous. They're lovely things. Lovely AstroTurf, a little shorter actually than actual football field. I think it's 80 yards. But nonetheless, you can make an argument for those things. But that would be akin to buying a BMW when you live in a shanty town. Not saying we're a shanty town, by the way. But that's the image I want to conjure up in your mind, is that we're struggling to put things together. We have buildings that have various states of disrepair. There's a form coming out that'll come out with the bond committee here shortly that we did 4 or 5 years ago called the Facilities Condition Index, the FCI. And they did it on every single school. And they showed us quite abysmal results and how much it's going to cost us in 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years from now. So we're well aware of what the situation is from a management standpoint. But I do think we need to work out those priorities. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I hear you saying your priorities would be the academic side first, and then sports, arts, those, what do they call them? Extracurricular. Later, for sure. And we do a great job, by the way. Richardson ISD is state awards for our arts programming that we do. We do some fantastic arts programming. That does cost money. We recognize that. But I do hear you saying more on the academic side. Yes,
yes, because we need our children to come out,
Reading,
graduate.
writing.
We need our kids to come out graduating to know how to do the basic stuff.
Yeah.
To know how to do basic math, to do basic reading and writing, because that's what you're dealing with in the real world today. To know how to do those things.
And I feel that certainly some of those scores, and I know we'll malign the STAR test for sure, but some of those scores do indicate that only half of our students are succeeding in that regard.
Right.
That are succeeding in that reading, writing, arithmetic. I don't like calling them 3 R's though, because arithmetic is also an A. But that's just me.
I was in a class today.
Oh.
I was in a class today. People were 20 years, younger than me, same age as my children, and don't know how to do the basic reading and writing. And that's sad because they are our future. They're the people that are going to take care of us when we retire. I mean, you have to think it that way. I mean, so sorry.
No, you're right. You touched a point there. We were talking earlier, and Cristina got pepper spray in her face, and she wasn't even rioting. Can you believe it? But this is the torture that they do for our public service.
Yes.
Study the sheriff's department. Yes.
Right, exactly.
And so you have to learn these techniques. So much like in the classroom, we're teaching kids now. We don't spray them with pepper spray. But back to our discipline problem earlier, we talked about discipline. Just kidding. Don't write letters, please. Okay. So when it comes then to curriculum and instruction, what careful steps should we take with how the district and, in fact, all Texas schools receive textbooks in the future through the online learning? House Bill 1605 limits us to only online now. Although I will give a caveat that you can now order the paper copies from the district, from the state. We've just ordered, we haven't seen it yet, but as soon as I do, I'll be doing a podcast on that and doing a little bit of a deep dive with curriculum experts on looking at how does that work. With 1605, they're going to give us $60 per student to supplement that ancillary textbooks and things they used to give hard copies of to now online. So what steps do we need to take carefully with making sure that we're not just going with one monotheistic, if you will, approach to academia?
Well, I guess there's a fine line between, the districts, because different people live in different areas.
Sure. So
in my district, I believe that $60 per child would be efficient for them.
Yes, good
That's
number,
my
for sure.
opinion. Especially for elementary kids. I believe that we should go back to textbooks for the elementary only. And of course, iPads for the older kids, because yes, we are going into technology and it changes every, 2 years?
Yeah.
I can't even keep up. So yes, I believe, yes, I think we should go back to textbooks.
Yeah.
Children need to know how to read a real paperback book.
Yeah, and the studies show, right? They have a number of studies now, much like when we took cursive out of schools, right? They're like, cursive, it means that we're not writing the Declaration of Independence anymore. Well, how are you going to read it if it's written in cursive? So we pulled that out, and unfortunately, now they've put it back, but unfortunately, we have a swath of kids that we robbed of that experience, robbed of that skill that, by the way, got me through college, just having to take those notes, copious notes. If you can write in cursive, you can outshine all your friends in notes, for sure.
Sure.
So, $60 is not a bad amount per student, but I think that rooted back in the idea of a textbook, an actual paper material in front of you, we can turn pages and see the illustrations. There's something about how the brain activates to get you to understand that.
And watching a child being engaged, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is there's so much on these screens, right? Every kid's on the screen, is that we're losing that endorphins coming from screen feedback rather than academic. Like, I'm going to read and learn about something new. Oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Just getting
But in the same
that
token,
high.
when you read a book, you use your brain, your imaginations, your, you make
It's
your
a
own
whole
stories.
new world, a whole new different point of view. Oh, sorry. I get carried away sometimes. My kids will understand that. And my kids, I mean my students, because, my son is no longer a kid. But that's the kind of thing teachers have in the classroom, right? Not to over-explain that, but anyways. As a school board member, how would you then connect with the community? I've spoken now several times about the fact that I've opened this up and offered the incumbents to come and have this chat. This didn't hurt anybody. No, a board of trustee candidate was hurt in the making of this film. So I'm just not understanding why our incumbents, the ones who are in the seat, the ones who are making the decisions, can't come and connect with their community. Because as a board member, how would you connect with the community? How would you get them excited, perhaps, about one of your ideas? You can think of one idea and do like that 90-second elevator pitch, right? Just say, here's what I want to do, and here's what it is. Not to put you on the spot, but go.
I would like to connect with the people. I like to call them up and tell me, what are your concerns? What can I do for you to help you and your child in their education, in their social life? Anything that's bothering you, or you see something difficult, or your child, something bothering him or she. What can I do for you? I would like to speak to every parent, or a gathering, or again, go back to PTA meetings again. Yeah. Just have that again.
A lot of our PTAs are more just
teachers.
TAs.
Yeah,
they lost the P, and I think that's an important part. I know that there's a push right now to call PTA PTSA, which is Parent Teachers Students Association, which is good to bring the student into it. As long as we're bringing the student in to be inclusive and to interact with them and connect with them, awesome. The minute we start saying to the students, hey, how should our school operate? And we're getting a little out of their purview, a little bit out of their understanding of that. But I love what you said there, to reach out and to have those phone calls, to meet regularly. I think that's a very important thing. I've expressed many a time at school board meetings and on this podcast that there are some school board trustees who just don't engage. You can leave them an email and they won't return. And they know they'll see you at the school board meeting, because I've been at every school board meeting for 8 years, minus those crazy COVID times, if you remember those. And so I think that's unfortunate. I'm really happy to hear when people want to connect with the community, because that's part of this podcast. The You and Me and the ISD podcast is to connect the community with the ISD, so that we can affect those best outcomes. So in thinking of that, we try to give everyone the equal amount of time, so you've got plenty of time to say what you will. I don't want to cut you off short, and I think we've been at 20-ish minutes or so. Is talk a little bit about what do you like. I understand running for school board is a difficult and time-consuming thing. So first of all, thank you for that service. Just for somebody to put themselves out there is remarkable, because they do open themselves up to lots of folks out there who have different opinions, and we've lost sometimes that ability to disagree respectfully, and that's unfortunate. But if you'd like to just tell the folks back home there, what do you want to do as a trustee that you see not being done right now for District 5?
I want to tell them what I can do for them. And I want to be there. I want to be their voice. I want to be the parent's voice to the superintendent. To tell, because what I'm hearing, I keep hearing the same thing over and over on these parents are telling me, I can't talk to the teacher. I can't, everything's very vague. I asked them what's my child doing this week, and they tell me, and it's not clear. So just that there's a transparency, or it's not clear between a parent and a teacher. And I want to be their voice. I want to be there for them, the parents.
You're trying to resolve that.
Exactly. Resolve. Yeah.
So make that connection as to what is missing in that communication between the teacher and the student, and every student, every teacher is different for sure.
Yes.
And so you see that as a concern in District 5,
Yes.
which for those who don't know is Lake Highlands High School area, the feeder pattern for that mostly. And then you go all the way west, you got a little bit of the west side district
Right.
there. West side. Gang day, sorry. So yeah, connecting with them and making it happen, getting a better feel for how kids are performing in their classroom.
Right.
And what we can do with these vast resources. Folks, our annual budget on the M&O side is $405 million. That comes from me. That comes from you. That comes from all of you out there. Thank you for paying your taxes, by the way. We have a very high tax rate payment system, 98 somewhat percent. So very good on you guys to do that. And we just want to ensure that's going to great places for great outcomes. So I do thank you for running. Thank you for putting yourself out there. I hope you guys will get out there and vote. Again, May 3rd is the election. April 22nd is early voting. So please do that. We don't, again, 2,000, 3,000 people vote. We need more than that, folks. We've got 20 and 30,000 people in these districts. So please get out and vote. Thank you so much for tuning in. I've been your host, Euan Blackman. This has been Mr. Neria for District 5. Did I pronounce that right?
Neria.
Close enough.
Yeah, that's good.
Neria, sorry. Hey, with the first name like Euan, Anyway, so thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Euan, me, and the ISD Podcast. See you next time.